Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ian Izzle, and this is your Survivor Series predictions. As per usual, I am not alone.
Come on, baby!
Oh
What's up,
yeah, new
guys?
day, baby.
That was epic, but not as epic as what this video was going to be. Guys, you should all know who I am, but for those of you that have not yet been acquainted, I am John alongside the man you should know as Awesomeness, but we just call him Eon Izzle for short. This is our Survivor Series preview and predictions video. It's going to be a stellar pay-per-view. I can feel it tomorrow night, but for the time being, we're going to give you our insight on what we expect these matches to be, and more importantly, what the final outcome will be. So Ashton, how you feeling about this pay-per-view as we're on the dawn of it here?
You know, I gotta say, John, going into the pay-per-view, I honestly just did not give a crap. I really, the apathy levels in me was rising to meteoric levels until that last episode of SmackDown. And there were little things that happened throughout the entire show that sold me on match after match after match. And now I'm invested, and now I'm interested, and now I want to watch the pay-per-view.
Absolutely, absolutely. SmackDown was great, and if you want to hear our analysis of that, please check out TWitWoW on Podbean, or the preferable option, downloading it on iTunes, baby! But yes, I agree with you, Ashton. This past SmackDown was fantastic. Definitely raised my intrigue for the pay-per-view, and I am just stoked for this. So many great matches on this card that I'm looking forward to, and I'm ready to get right into it.
All right, well, as you may or may not know, the intro is obviously going to be on YouTube. We're going to have our 30-minute pre-show on YouTube that usually really only lasts like 20 minutes, and then they just talk about the rest of the card. We're going to get a tag team match between Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel and the two remaining members of 3MB, because apparently I believe Drew McIntyre had a death in the family, and he's not going to be around. So, yeah, it's going to be Jinder Mahal and Heath Slater.
Ah, okay. Interesting. I didn't expect that match because we know the pre-show match is Santino and Zack Ryder versus two members of 3MB that I thought were going to be Mahal and Slater. So that's
Wait,
inter-
did you just say Zack Ryder and Santino?
that was the pre-show that I had heard. I had read somewhere that was the pre-show for Survivor Series was Cobra, as they call themselves, Santino Marella and Zack Ryder versus two members of 3MB that I believe to be Heath Slater and Jinder Mahal. So where did you hear Gabriel and Kidd versus 3MB?
Well, I actually read it on the yeah. I don't know. I'm not fine. I read that on WrestleZone.com, which is, in my opinion, probably the most reliable source because they have like ins for the business and stuff, and No DQ is a little bit less reputable than WrestleZone is, but I mean, it's splitting hairs because they're both dirt sheets. So really, it all just kind of comes down to babyface tag team versus 3MB, which kind of tells me that 3MB is going over.
Yeah, I would agree. Honestly, you're absolutely right. Regardless of which team it is, especially, more so if it is Cobra, really, because I would give Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel more of a fighting chance. But regardless of who it is, 3MB is definitely going over. I can tell that WWE is somewhat serious about pushing these guys, and a win at the Survivor Series pre-show, I think, would go a long way in kind of establishing their credibility. So yeah, regardless of which team it is, 3MB to definitely go over, and what should be a solid pre-show. So.
Yeah, you know what? I'm more looking forward to kind of like the hype for the pre-show because we've had much more impressive, much more interesting pre-show matches than this.
Right.
The last few, even really, I would say this is the least interesting out of all of them. Especially because one of them, Antonio Cesaro, won the U.S. title on. But regardless, yeah, pre-show is pretty much lackluster. A lot like Hell in a Cell's pre-show was. I would say that was a pretty lackluster pre-show, but they still got us to tune in somehow or another, so we'll probably tune into this too. Let's move on to the actual pay-per-view. And John, we're not going to talk about any specific matches right away because I have a little bit of a trivia / common, whatever you want to call it, question for you. What match do you think is going to jerk the curtain on this show?
Honestly, I have a feeling the 5-on-5 will.
Really?
Yeah, some odd reason that may be the current jerker because WWE may think what better way to open up Survivor Series than with a traditional Survivor Series match. It's either going to be the current jerker to me or the mid-card match. That kind of, I guess, both cools the audience down and just keeps heating them up. And if that's not the opener, I would definitely say the U.S. Championship match like it was last year between Ziggler and Morrison. I could definitely see the U.S. title jerking the current again between Antonio Cesaro and R-Truth. What about you?
See, and to me, it really comes down to one of two things. It's either going to be, as you said, the 5-on-5 tag team elimination match, or, and you didn't mention this one, the World Heavyweight Championship match. And
Really?
The reason I throw that out there is because it is Survivor Series, and a lot of the time for Survivor Series, they want you to feel like the 5-on-5 match is the most important match on the card. I highly doubt it'll main event exclusively for the sake that John Cena is in another match that's for the WWE title, so he'll probably main event. But I do feel like there's a good chance that 5-on-5 match will be the secondary main event that comes on right before, and obviously probably gets sandwiched around like a Divas match or something a little bit more boring like that to cool the crowd down for the actual main event. But yeah, the way I see it, the first and second last matches will be the 5-on-5 tag and the World Heavyweight Championship match. I just don't know what order. And really, when I say second last, I should say third last, because the second last is always a dumb match to kill the crowd.
Right, right. Now my question to you, because we kind of talked about this on our SmackDown/NXT TWitWoW last night. Do you think Sheamus and Big Show will have a stipulation before the bell rings? Do you think Booker T will come out and lay down some edict on the World Heavyweight Championship match? Because I still just in the back of my mind think we may be getting a parking lot brawl. So I just kind of wanted your quick thoughts on that before we do like an actual in-depth analysis later on in the video.
I'm going to be completely blunt here, John. I don't think a parking lot brawl is going to happen, even if a stipulation does get added, just because one time ever they had a fight in the parking lot doesn't mean that they're going to revolve an entire match around that one instance. I think that if something does happen, they might make it a Falls Count Anywhere match. And here's the way I see it. If it jerks the curtain like I'm expecting it will, Booker T is going to make the announcement on the pre-show to keep people tuning into it. If it doesn't, if the 5-on-5 happens first and that happens almost last, then Booker T will obviously make the announcement sometime during the middle of the card. But yeah, I do think there's going to be a stipulation. I don't think it's going to be a parking lot brawl, though. I just think they're going to go with the typical Falls Count Anywhere. Maybe they'll come up with a different name for it, like, it's a street fight, or it's a no disqualification, or a no holds barred, or something like that. But the general idea will be no rules.
Right, right. I could definitely see that. I mean, I originally only thought this because, as I said to everybody on TWitWoW, dirt sheets. But now I feel even more strongly about it because they did have the scuffle in the parking lot, and Booker T did say that, if anything was to happen, there would be repercussions. And as we've seen in the past, though, it's kind of debatable because of actions that would follow, there are always repercussions for people that cross Booker T. He has been known to be that strong guy that he does what he says and he says what he does. So, I am expecting some kind of fallout. What that fallout is anybody's guess until we get to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So have we basically the only match that we agree on as far as a curtain jerker, oddly enough, is the 5-on-5 match. So let's get right into that. 5-on-5. Kane, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, and The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, Damian Sandow, Wade Barrett, and Alberto Del Rio, with a fifth man that should be Cody Rhodes, but he most likely will not be able to make the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's really the biggest story going into this match. Are the actual components of these teams. It's not necessarily anything tangible that causes these teams to come together. No, it's the actual membership in regards to who's on this team and who's on that team. That's been the biggest story, because if it wasn't just, CM Punk getting pulled out and having to defend his WWE Championship, and then, of course, Ryback being involved in that equation, now it's Cody Rhodes getting injured and, sustaining a concussion. So, putting all these teams together, I just find it so funny that that's the big story as we head into this match. For the actual match in the build, it hasn't been bad. I mean, of course, I've seen better when you look at other 5-on-5 matches, but considering that I think WWE really had this match on the card simply because it is a tradition, I don't think they were really looking for anything more grandiose than that. I just think they had it because, hey, it's 5-on-5, it's Survivor Series, people love this match, let's do it. I think it's very cool that Ziggler's captaining his own team. I know some people have been very critical of Dolph Ziggler's build as a Money in the Bank holder. Again, I keep referencing them back to Daniel Bryan's build. He didn't win so many matches either, and I don't remember him ever captaining his own team at Survivor Series. So this is a huge thing that I think Dolph Ziggler is doing. So I'm very happy for him on that front. Of course, another interesting element is Miz kind of in limbo, like we talked about on TWitWoW. Is he a face? Is he a heel? What's going on? You actually came out and you said, and I thought it was very interesting, you could see him feigning it long enough that he stabs Orton in the back and potentially gives Team Ziggler the victory.
Yeah.
I think you and I can agree, though, in the final analysis, I do see Miz being one of the sole survivors because they've made him such a big deal these past, really this past week. So, we'll see what happens. But ultimately, as far as my prediction, I'm very much looking forward to the match. I've always been a big fan of the 5-on-5. Anybody who knows me knows this. I'm just a sucker for those big types of matches, and I love elimination style. Who's the winner going to be? See, I was so tempted to say Team Foley going into it because of the Miz. I thought the Miz would be the X Factor because they're making him such a big deal. And yet, for those same reasons, though, and for what you said on TWitWoW, I'm so torn now towards Team Ziggler that, you know what? I think I'm going to go with the heels. I think I'm going to say Team Ziggler takes this one.
I think that it's basically going to come down to, at the end of the match, Orton and Miz versus Ziggler and Del Rio. And I do think Miz is going to stab Orton in the back somehow, some way. He doesn't necessarily need to, have like the 2-on-2 face-off in the middle of the ring and then Miz cracks Orton over the head or something like that just to be like overly dramatic. It could be something as simple as Miz gets eliminated, and then when Orton gets in the ring to continue the match, Miz attacks him. It could be something as simple as that, but at the end of the day, I do not see Miz staying babyface. But if they do decide that they want to keep him babyface, maybe he'll just win the whole freaking match for his team. You never know.
I mean, you don't, and that's what I love about this type of matchup, the unpredictability, because we can say, oh, that guy's going to be a real survivor. Like, I'm really excited to see how Kofi Kingston's going to perform, because I've really been singing his praises lately, and saying what a great Intercontinental Champion he's been. Damian Sandow in this type of environment should be very interesting. They've got a great interconnection, a great interplay of feuds going on. You've got Orton, Del Rio, Team Hell No, and formerly Team Road Scholars, and that's something we should also talk about, Ashton. I already locked my prediction in. I'm going to stick with Team Ziggler, but there's been speculation that Fandango, aka Johnny Curtis, could take Cody Rhodes' place. Either him or the other really big name being tossed around, at least in regards of returns and stuff like that, would be Jack Swagger. I'd actually prefer Fandango in this one case, but I digress. If it is Johnny Curtis, this is a huge opportunity for him, and one that I don't think should really be taken lightly. I mean, what a way to debut then in a Big Four pay-per-view in one of, in a very cherished kind of match type within WWE, being the 5-on-5 at this pay-per-view. They put it on par as like a Thanksgiving tradition, and Johnny Curtis gets to debut in that kind of format. I mean, that's pretty huge.
John, I don't think it's going to be Fandango, because you say there's speculation, but realistically, one tweet from Wade Barrett does not equal speculation.
This is true. Although I do find it funny that Wade Barrett came out and tweeted that, though. I mean, it wasn't just some schmuck. It was an actual WWE superstar, so maybe that's kind of the way to say.
But you could the tone of the tweet felt like he was joking around, like, "Oh, hey, I hope this guy's available for services" or something like that. It wasn't like. It wasn't like one of those things where he was like trying to hype it up, like, "Oh yeah, we got Fandango. What you gonna do now?"
We locked it in. We got the ballroom all locked up. But
Forget
I think
MVP. This is the real #1 draft pick.
Oh, I saw what you did there. Well then, Ashton, in all seriousness, I guess the obvious follow-up question would be, if you don't think Fandango, who do you think is going to replace Cody Rhodes?
I could see it being Jack Swagger, because he has been working house shows, and there are rumors of him returning and getting a bit of a push. Realistically, I said last night on TWitWoW, I think they're going to go into this match where last minute Damian Sandow makes the announcement, Cody's not medically cleared, we got to do this. They go into it with a 5-on-4, and then at the end, Miz reveals that he was the fifth guy.
Yeah. That really is what you said, which was the whole basis for you saying that he could feign the face turn just long enough to stab Orton in the back. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I even conceded on TWitWoW I would almost prefer that option, because rather than filling a hole, you just kind of go with that unique ending. Regardless, this should be a very fun match. Again, I think the best thing this match is going for it, as I said earlier, is the interplay of all the feuds they got going on. Orton, Del Rio, Team Hell No, and again, half of Team Road Scholars at least. Kingston and Miz on the same team. That should be interesting. And, of course, Ziggler and Foley even have a little bit of history in their own right. We'll see if that gets played up upon at all in the course of the matchup. So I don't think you formally made a prediction. Mine is Team Ziggler. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. I have to say, or you know what, though? That's my thing. When Randy Orton is on a team, it is really hard to pick against him, because I could even see the Miz turning on him and still getting another elimination or two and really making it down to the wire where it's like Orton versus Ziggler and someone has to come out with the upset victory or something like that. So it's hard to pick against Orton, but I think in the long run, my logical side tells me that I have to because I do think that The Miz isn't going to last long as a babyface.
Right.
I mean, I would love to see like a huge surprise entrant taking Cody Rhodes' place, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see them. And you know what? All this hype could be for nothing. You never know. Cody Rhodes might randomly get medically cleared and they might just have a full 5-on-5. In which case, I would pick Team Orton. And I'm calling it Team Orton regardless of what the actual team is because let's face it, he's the leader.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he's got such a decorated Survivor Series history. I mean, even at times when he's lost as part of a Survivor Series team, he's always been the sole survivor. As we said, him and Daniel Bryan have an elite history being survivors in these types of matches.
And they're both on the same team.
And they're both on the same team. And I agree with you. When the chips are down, it's almost kind of foolish. I mean, not to be insulting towards anybody, but it is almost kind of foolish, to bet against Orton in this type of match. I'm only doing it because I really feel like this could be a huge moment for Dolph Ziggler, and I don't really think I'm overstating it because, this is a Big Four pay-per-view. This is, as I've harped on, a traditional match, and he's captaining a team. I can't get over how awesome that is, and he just carries himself so well. I really want to see Dolph get the win, so yeah, there's definitely that personal bias in there as well. I'll definitely be rooting for Ziggler because I really want to see him get a few big moments under his belt before his inevitable cash-in, and this would be just absolutely phenomenal for him. It is tough to bet against Orton, but I am going to do it. We'll see what happens.
And I will say this, just as like a little bit of like a gem of thought. The Miz quit Team Punk, not Team Ziggler.
There you go.
So let's move on. The next match, probably United States Championship. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, Cesaro versus Truth. You know what? There isn't even a whole lot to be said here. Cesaro isn't losing it to Truth.
Yeah, he's certainly going over. I don't think Truth has any kind of a chance. It's funny, Ashton, because when we went into Hell in a Cell last month, it's funny. I feel like Gabriel had a better chance then than Truth does now. In fact, so much so that I actually picked Gabriel to go over in our preview/predictions video for Hell in a Cell. Truth here, though, I don't have any confidence, nor would I even want him to go over. It's not like the case of Gabriel where I want him to get that breakout moment. I mean, Truth's in his 40s, and to me as a babyface, he's completely uninteresting. It's Antonio Cesaro's time. Anybody who, listens to TWitWoW regularly or, has listened to commentaries where I've taken part in, on Ashton's channel in the past, knows I am very big on Antonio Cesaro. It would be foolish for him not to go over here. He's definitely put some shine back on the United States Championship. I don't think since the days of Dolph Ziggler have I been this interested in a United States champion.
Yeah, that thing was getting pretty freaking rusty before he got his hands on it.
Absolutely, and look at the polish he's put back on it, and look at all the rust he's taken away from it. And you and I even said, this was his barometer. Let's see what he can do with it. And I think he has passed the test with flying colors. The one thing I've harped on recently with Antonio is that WrestleMania season is only 6 weeks away, and I can't wait to see what he does. To me, it would be giving R-Truth too much credit to even call him a bump in the road. To me, he's nothing. I think Antonio's going to run right through him. And, I mean, this is one outcome that if Truth by some miracle went over, infuriated wouldn't even properly describe what I would be feeling.
I was just getting ready to say, you just because you said Truth, to call Truth a bump in the road would be an overstatement. That, to me, that makes me feel like, oh, okay, so now Truth's going to frickin' win.
Right, just to spite me, because we all know I can never know what it feels like to have a W column in my life. But no, really, to keep it succinct, Ashton, Antonio Cesaro to go over. But that being said, I am expecting a fun contest, if for no other reason, to see how Antonio Cesaro executes the Swiss Death on Truth. Maybe it'll just be a run-of-the-mill, lifts him up in the air, and then slams him down, or maybe they'll find a creative way to do it. But regardless, I'm going to have fun with this match, more so when our Truth streams get crushed. And that's the truth.
You scared me a little bit there, John.
You're welcome.
All right. Before we move on, because we kind of have a relatively rigid final 3 with the 2 title matches and the Divas match being a little bit of an interesting and not so interesting sandwich there. Do you think that there are going to be any unannounced matches that get added onto this card?
For some reason, I see the primetime players getting a match.
Oh.
maybe against Ray Sin Cara, because Sin Cara's not
Yeah.
doing anything right.
Or maybe
So
the Usos. I could see that.
maybe the Usos, but I still feel like Ray Cara and the Primetime Players still have a feud going on.
Or really, whatever team doesn't go against 3MB in the pre-show.
Yeah, really.
Whether it's Cobro or Kid and Gabriel, I could see that happening too.
That's true. Regardless, though, the same way with 3MB earlier, I'm going to say the Primetime Players go over. The only exception being against Ray Cara. I could definitely see Ray Cara getting the win in that case.
Right.
Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to say that I feel like Ray Cara has lost steam, but I definitely think they could use the win here more than the Primetime Players in this one case, because I think if they're serious about WWE serious about getting the tag team titles on them, start getting wins back under their belt and start really putting them out there again. But we'll see what happens.
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Fandango debuts.
That could be interesting.
I think maybe against like a Yoshitatsu or someone like that, but I think, or maybe like a JTG, but yeah, I think Fandango debuts on this pay-per-view, not in the 5-on-5 match, as hilariously weird as that would be. But yeah, I do think that gimmick is going to make its debut on this show. If not, then on the Monday night afterwards.
Hey, don't anybody knock it as a possibility. I remember when MVP came in. I believe his year was 2006, and he debuted on the Judgment Day pay-per-view of that year. And even more so, Ashton, he competed against a local competitor, and this was a pay-per-view, and this wasn't a pre-show. This is actually on the card. So Fandango being on this pay-per-view, even if it was against a local competitor, to be honest, wouldn't really take me off guard.
Well, and John, you've been watching WWE since the early 2000s. You remember Kurt Angle's undefeated streak, right?
Exactly.
Who debuted to break that streak?
Taz.
On a pay-per-view.
There you go.
There we go. They happen all the time. They just haven't happened in a long time.
Exactly. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get it. Just because I feel like it's necessary for me to at least throw a name out there, I do think that Yoshitatsu would be a great example for him to kind of break in.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's get to the well, unless you think there are going to be any other matches, but I think we're about out.
No, I think we're about there. So
yeah, that 5-on-5 is kind of playing the role of Money in the Bank, where it just kind of sweeps up all the talent.
Yeah, really.
Okay, World Heavyweight Championship match, Big Show Sheamus. I've been saying it all along, Sheamus is going to lose, Big Show's going to retain. But, John, I know that you might be a little bit torn here, so why don't you let me have it here?
It's decision time, folks. We've been kind of giving this some mini hype. John finally makes the decision. Sheamus or Big Show. First and foremost,
Decision 2012.
This may seem so out of place, but I do want to say this. This is the first world title match in a long time where I'm not even thinking about Dolph Ziggler. Like I don't even think that that's even a contender, and I just want to put that out there. It's when you're Mr. Money in the Bank, every pay-per-view, every event, there's always a possibility. A possibility is always going to exist. This is just one that doesn't even feasibly cross my mind. I do think
Ziggler's in the elimination match, and on top of that, I mean, Big Show and Sheamus, they both kicked out of each other's finishers at the last pay-per-view, so it's kind of hard to be able to take advantage of somebody that recovers that quickly.
Exactly. Like Ziggler, if we're thinking like Dolph Ziggler would think, he'd be very tentative to, cross the path of these two titans. That being said, and I just wanted to put that out there in case anybody was wondering was going to field that question. Yeah, Ziggler isn't even crossing my mind.
And if I'm Ziggler, I'm trying to convince Randy Orton or Kane or somebody that actually stands a chance to go after Big Show's title, because it's like when they get it, then yeah, I can take them out, but not Big Show, because he's huge and he kicks out of finishers and he's scary.
Yeah, he's fierce. He's beastly. I'm really looking forward to this. First of all, I do want to say kudos to both guys, and yes, I do mean both guys. That does include Sheamus, painfully so, but it does include Sheamus because their match in Hell in a Cell got rave reviews from everybody, and I think part of the reason why, and I'm just going to be blunt, and I could be way off the mark, I think everybody had such low expectations for this match, and the match was genuinely great. Like, if the match had to stand on its own, it definitely could, but I think the low expectations, no matter what those guys did, they definitely exceeded them. Now everybody's looking forward to the rematch. See, it's always harder to put on a good match when people are eagerly anticipating it. It's not so hard when everybody thinks it's going to be the shits. So now that everybody's kind of anticipating this, we'll see if they can deliver twice. Crunch time, absolutely, Ashton. And here's the thing, I think they can. I have loved Big Show as world champion. Again, my biggest amongst the thousands upon thousands. My biggest complaint of Sheamus was that I felt like he had no passion. He didn't care, and that was a big critique of yours as well. I mean, and the one thing I kept, praising Big Show, to the hill for was when he was on commentary one SmackDown, and the commentators were talking about the WWE Championship match, and Michael Cole looks over Big Show and he's like, "Are you upset that we talked about the WWE Championship match?" And he's like, "I don't care. I know the most important championship is the one resting on my shoulder." And I'm like, yeah, like, don't care. Know that you're the man. Know that you're the champion. If it was Sheamus, he probably would have cracked some, or attempted to crack some lighthearted joke or whatever to diffuse the tension. Big Show just shrugs it off. He's like, yeah, I don't care. You do what you want. And I love it because he's so confident in himself and who he is as a champion. He knows who he is. Not saying Sheamus didn't have that same problem, but it's almost like he never cared that he was the world champion. As me and Ashton would say on TWitWoW or on videos, it would always just be like, oh man, I'm so excited to fight this guy. When you're the world champion, I mean, you should be excited going out in front of a crowd. You should be excited representing the WWE. You shouldn't be excited, though, about the prospect of losing your championship.
Exactly. That's always been my problem with Sheamus, is that he's always thought more of the championship as just a way to paint a target on his back to have more competition. It's like frickin' Broly from the Dragon Ball series. He's just interested in fighting. It's like he's a Saiyan. He doesn't give a crap about winning or losing because his ultimate goal is to face his ultimate opponent, and that's like Sheamus. It's like he's a frickin' Saiyan, but not as awesome.
And you know what, Ashton? That line of thinking, as far as Sheamus is concerned, could work, but you have to be a certain character. And I'll give you an example, because I was just thinking about this. During one of Undertaker's World Heavyweight Championship reigns, it was probably towards the tail end of when he could actually be perceived as a world champion, and he was still kind of in the thick of things. He said why he wanted to be the world champion was that it would bring all the souls to him that he could lay to rest. Right. Now, that's badass. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, you say that, and I'm like, yeah, Teddy, I don't want to be a world champion. What are you saying, player? Please just send me to Raw. Be content being a United States champion, but I was going to put you in the ring with The Undertaker tonight. Please don't. Sorry. It's just like,
I bet Teddy Long is so sad now that he can't make one-on-one matches with The Undertaker anymore.
Oh, yeah, he got JBL's title reign. Every title reign under the sun. Like, you'd have to cross paths with The Undertaker sooner or later.
It was like that was like his staple, though. If it's not a tag team match, it's one-on-one with The Undertaker.
Exactly. And like, see, that's the thing, though. When you're a character like The Undertaker, these supernatural elements, these just beyond physically imposing kind of creature, that line of reasoning works, that, oh, I love being champion because it brings all the people to me. Well, why would you say that? Because I'm the threat. And it's like, oh crap, son, I'm sorry. But like with Sheamus, even though he is a tough dude, and I wouldn't want to cross paths with him, he's not scary. He's intimidating, but he's not scary. And I do think there's a difference, because scary, I think it messes with you on all levels. With Sheamus, my worst fear is that I'm going to take a bad beating. With somebody like The Undertaker, it's like I'm going to suffer psychologically, emotionally, mentally, on all fronts. With Sheamus, it's like, okay, we cross paths at a bar and you beat the crap out of me and that's the end of it. Right. So, his line of reasoning, like, I want competition, it doesn't work. With The Undertaker, it does work, because it's The Undertaker and he's not even human.
Zombie gimmicks, FTW.
I know, right? So that always irked me about Sheamus. Big Show, though, will face his challengers, but he's not eager. You could tell, like, he's happy when Booker T lays down some edict that keeps Sheamus away from him, or seems to, in some way, shape, or form, protects his world championship or his vested interests, which is normal. One, because he's a heel, and two, because, I don't know, you're the world champion, and you want to be champion as long as you can, and that should be the logic. Me and Ashton have gone back and forth about this, guys, as regards to who's going to win. He has been solidly in the camp of Big Show's going to retain. You all know I've had difficulties. Ashton's reasons for Big Show retaining: one, he's just a fierce dude. The biggest reason, though, was because it is the Triple H regime. He does seem to be big on long title reigns, and Ashton said, when it goes from guy A to guy B, it doesn't go back to guy A. So, if Big Show's going to drop the title, it would be a guy, other than Sheamus. And if it would go back to Sheamus, it certainly wouldn't be in Big Show's first formal defense. Right. And while that's all very logical, and I totally pick up everything Ashton's laying down, I am tentative because, it is Sheamus, and the guy kicked out of a code breaker in midair and whatever. Though, granted, he kicked out of a knockout punch in Hell in a Cell, and yet he still got put down. It just took a second knockout punch. So what's it going to be? What's John thinking? We know he knows that the match is going to be great. We know that he's eagerly anticipating the match, but who is he picking?
We know that he's rambling for the sake of stalling time.
Yeah, I am stalling for time because I don't know. Okay. My decision, Big Show retains. I'm gonna side with you, bud. I'm gonna say the Big Show retains the championship.
You get my golf clap.
Feels so good. I love you all.
They love me. They really love me. All right, so we actually agree on that match. We both believe Big Show will retain. Sheamus can go suck a fat one and maybe feud with The Miz afterwards because I don't care what either one of them do, so it's just a feud that I can pay zero attention to overall.
You're a logic FT, Tommy.
All right, Divas match. Divas tag team, or Diva, I said Divas tag team title match. That doesn't exist. Divas title match. Caitlyn versus Eve. Eve retains. Caitlyn walks home sad. I walk home happy.
Yeah, I just want to sign on to that so we can move on to the match that actually matters.
WWE title triple threat match. CM Punk versus Ryback, or as Vince would say, versus Ryback versus John Cena.
It's going to be intense. This is a big money matchup right here. I mean, you got Ryback and John Cena squaring off. The immovable force meets the irresistible object. Beg pardon?
It's the unstoppable force and the immovable object.
I thought it was the irresistible force and the immovable object.
It's the unstoppable force and the immovable object.
I'm still contending you on that, but we'll confirm it somewhere later.
Just Google it. JFGI, man. JFGI.
Wait, what does that even mean? What does that even... I don't know. But regardless, this match, I think, is going to be an epic triple threat. It certainly puts Punk in quite a predicament. I don't know what a lot of fans are thinking. I don't know if most of them were relieved when he was originally captaining his own Survivor Series team, and now they're kind of anxious that he's defending a triple threat. If most people are happy that we are seeing another title defense on a Big Four pay-per-view, which to me makes sense because it's the 1-year anniversary of his reign coming up, which, man, just saying that, just having it roll off the tongue so easily, that's really quite something in 2012. But I'll get to that more in a moment. I expect an amazing match. This is going to be incredible. I think we're going to see more out of Ryback than we did at Hell in a Cell, and it's great, too, because he's not going to be completely responsible. John Cena's going to have to shoulder some of the match himself. So I think, on one hand, we'll get to see more of Ryback, while at the same time not having him be completely exhausted. We don't even know where his point of exhaust is, I don't think, even after Hell in a Cell. Me personally, Ashton, I don't know about you. I don't really think we learned anything new about the limitations of Ryback. I still feel like it's kind of an enigma.
Yeah.
That's just me. And will any of those questions be answered here? Honestly, to a degree, I think so. Because, with John Cena in the mix, this is going to be some kind of 20-plus minute or 30-plus minute confrontation.
I could easily see it going for 25. Although, then again, I could also see Big Show versus Sheamus going for 20. So, there aren't very many matches on this card. There are 5 announced matches for the card itself. And we came up with 2 random ones to throw in there just to fill time, plus the pre-show. That's it. And I love matches or cards with a low amount of matches because it usually translates into more longer quality, high quality matches.
Right, exactly. So, it's going to be very interesting to me to see, where this match goes.
Go ahead.
No, it's going to be very interesting to me to see where, this match goes, and I do expect it to get a ton of time. Now, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, if you really look at it, you could get a 40-minute 5-on-5 match, a 20-minute heavyweight championship match, a 25-minute WWE title match, a 10-minute United States title match. They could even pull a freaking 10-minute Divas title match out of their butts. I hope they don't, but they could. I'm hoping for more along the lines of a 5-minute match there. And that's only filled, an hour and 40 minutes total? Not even?
Exactly.
Granted, they're going to spend most of the night doing, hyping and stuff. Most WrestleMania cards, which are 4 hours, have, I believe it's, just under 100 minutes worth of in-ring action. So that's, an hour and 40 minutes right there. So, I highly doubt they'll do that much. But at the same time, they have the potential to.
No, exactly. The potential definitely exists. And, you look at this match, I am very excited for it again, but it is kind of your typical, heel champion backed into a corner match. He's going up against the odds, and everybody seems to have their role clearly defined.
The odds, played by John Cena.
So true. You've got your roles clearly defined here. CM Punk, the the champion, supposedly getting screwed because that seems to be one of Vince's favorite traditions at Survivor Series, according to Punk. You've got Ryback, who you even wonder if he cares about the championship or understands the enormity and the magnitude of it, and he just wants to hurt people. That's his only goal. He wants retribution against Punk, and perhaps he wants to see what kind of a feast he can get at the hands of John Cena. And then John Cena, a man who's embroiled in a scandal, gave up a championship match at Hell in a Cell, which, him giving up that championship match for Ryback there was kind of reminiscent of how he gave up a WWE championship match last year for Zack Ryder at the TLC pay-per-view.
Yep.
So John Cena's quite a charitable person when it comes to people he believes in, I guess. But now he is in the thick of it again.
He believed in Zack Ryder.
What a fool. But now he is in the thick of this here, and it's going to be, John Cena and Ryback going toe-to-toe, and that, it's not in a one-on-one environment, which I know we're going to get that matchup down the road. That's a WrestleMania-worthy match in my eyes, but we're going to get a small taste of it here, and I'm really excited for that. That's going to be something else. It'll be interesting to see, where the crowd's loyalties lie, because I know Ryback's incredibly over. Cena always gets that mixed reaction, and Punk, I think, has been predominantly those heel reactions. You still hear the murmurs
you know
of cheers.
what? I feel like Punk has become the anti-Cena. He gets booed by the women and children and cheered by the men.
Yeah, because they know what he's all about. So it'll be interesting to see how the crowd reacts to these three guys. I'm expecting a barn burner. Not really much to say about the story. Like I said, the roles are defined. Ryback got screwed. Cena gave up one championship opportunity. Now he's in the thick of another. But he is embroiled in a scandal. And Punk's just looking for a way to survive so he can go even, further past the year mark. Which, again, I did say we were going to return to that later. What a reign by CM Punk. And even though me personally, I'll say it right now, I am thinking Punk will retain, just to kind of put it out there and lock it in. Punk's reign is at the point now for me. He had a good chunk of time as champion as a face. He spent a good portion of it now as a heel. Punk's reign has come to the point for me where it could end on any given day, and I would be okay with it. I would love to see him go to distance and face The Rock, or at least drop it to a babyface that I feel like could really run with it, like I thought Ryback could if he wanted Hell in a Cell last month. But really, regardless, Punk has just had an exceptional reign, and he has got nothing to be ashamed of. If anything, he should be completely proud of himself for what he did to that championship, because I feel like at one point it was just a lower level kind of title. At one point, I felt like the World Championship was surpassing it, and I think that was during Mark Henry's time as the World Heavyweight Champion. Now, though, Punk has just taken that championship. He has made it the championship, and I think it would take...
Well, WWE almost is superfluous just to say that.
Beg pardon?
It's almost superfluous just to say that. That's stating the obvious 101, man. That's like saying that CM Punk has made the WWE Championship the championship is like me saying Sheamus was a bad champion. Duh.
Right. But, I think the point I'm trying to make, though, is I think WWE would really have to try, make a conscious effort to undo all the work that CM Punk has done. That's how cemented I feel the WWE Championship is right now.
Right.
It's not one of those cases where, one tentative reign is just going to undo everything. No, I feel like CM Punk's pretty much locked the prestige in. WWE would really have to make a conscious effort to damage the reputation that CM Punk is built for. It's still disappointed that we haven't gotten a new title, but I do think it'll come. Hell, everybody always says the night after this, the night after that. Maybe after he surpassed the year mark, he could be like, I've learned that I'm invincible, and I've shown all of you that I'm invincible, so now the Don't Have a New Championship, blah, blah, blah. Probably not going to happen, but it would be epic that it did. In reality, though, bringing it back full circle, CM Punk to go over in what I do believe will be a clinic.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to really disagree with me when I say this, but this match has match of the year potential. And I'm not saying that because I feel like it's going to be like a technical clinic or like it's going to be an ROH level freaking back and forth and high energy and high paced match. The story that's being built up in this match is freaking ridiculous. You have the old throwback Punk Cena. That's never going to let you down. You have Punk Ryback, which has been built up over the last couple of months, which is basically hitting an all-time high as far as tension goes. And then you have the big X factor with Ryback versus Cena, which nobody's ever seen before. Nobody's even thought about before. The only real contact they've ever even had is just a stare down and grabbing the belt while CM Punk stares in anger from behind. But, there's a lot of mystery going into this match, and I love it. And to me, if you're gonna give Cena the belt back, this is the time to do it. And I'm not saying I want that. I want Punk to hold it until Mania. But if you feel the need to have the Cena versus Rock 3 match, best out of 3, you give Cena the title here. He successfully defends it against Punk at TLC. He beats Rock in January at Royal Rumble, and then we have the big WrestleMania tiebreaker between the two of them. That's like, if that's where you want to go, this is the best way to do it. On the other hand, my personal opinion would be Punk retains, and then he beats one of the two of them or even better yet, in a triple threat, although I think it's going to be another one-on-one, at TLC, beats The Rock, either wins an Elimination Chamber match or wins a one-on-one match with somebody at Elimination Chamber, and then Cena, whether by winning the Royal Rumble or winning an Elimination Chamber match, gets number 1 contendership, and then we have a triple threat at Mania, Punk, Cena, Rock, the biggest match of all time.
I mean, regardless, WWE Championship is in for a very interesting period. It always is when it comes to WrestleMania season.
Yeah,
more
I know,
so
dude.
now
The road
because
to WrestleMania is just amazing for wrestling fans.
I can't wait for the coverage you and I are going to give it, both on TWitWoW, any videos we do on your channel. It's just going to be an amazing time. So much fantasy booking going to come from you and me, as well as so much analysis of the actual booking going forward. But that'll be in a few weeks. I'm just really giddy about it. It's the most exciting time of the year. But, you know, it's always an interesting period, actually, for the world title around WrestleMania season. More so, though, this year because The Rock has thrown his hat in the ring. He has said, I want one more run. And, you know, honestly, simply because it is The Rock and, you know, other factors notwithstanding, I could see him getting that run, but it would be so reminiscent to me of Hogan, where, like, I can honestly see him. Well, no, if he was going to hold it, he'd have to hold it to WrestleMania. Hogan only held it for a month when he won it in 2002 at Backlash. He dropped it at Judgment Day to The Undertaker. But I can only see it because they'd want to recreate that, like, comeback story kind of feel, that emotional kind of feel, you know, connecting fans old and new as this man makes it back to the top of the mountain. But I agree with you, though, in the final analysis. I think it would be far more profitable and far more logical for WWE not to create that moment. You could, you know, still create a huge moment for The Rock having gone for the title, giving a valiant effort, and he could still come out looking like a boss in defeat. He doesn't need the victory. He doesn't. I feel like if CM Punk were to beat The Rock, and I said this in my big, you know, CM Punk must beat The Rock video when I was, you know, going on and on about his reign and the significance of it. And yeah, I did kind of deviate from the path when I said I want Ryback to win Hell in a Cell, but I got really behind Ryback, and I still really believe in Ryback. But the thing is, if Punk was to achieve what you said and then go to WrestleMania in that type of match, what a better way to drop it, because it's Wrestling 101. When a heel keeps on winning, the fans keep on itching. It was the case with JBL. It was the case with Triple H when he was with Evolution. People are going to be clamoring for anybody to step up and dethrone Punk. But the more the man keeps winning, the more of an impossibility it looks like. And then people, I guarantee you, Ashton, if they were to book it the way you described, I guarantee you, even if it was a handful, there would probably even be some people that would pick Punk to win that too, because he just keeps on winning, and I love it. Because when you can create that kind of an atmosphere, that kind of an aura for somebody, I mean, what a boss they look like. What a champion they look like, right. First and foremost. Like, I'm untouchable. I'm untouchable. You can't beat me. He would be like Al Pacino. It would take somebody coming up from behind with a 12 gauge, shooting him in the back to even have a chance of, you know, ending this reign. And he's just been so dominant. And he's not a guy, and the best part is that he's not a guy that would scream dominance. He's a skinny guy. He's an indie guy, is the best way I could describe it. And look at the people he's beaten, and look at the mountains he's toppled. You know, Chris Jericho, John Cena, Mark Henry, Daniel Bryan, the list goes on. And he just keeps on winning and winning. But I also agree with you as well. If they're going to give the belt to John Cena, if they're going to do this, and they're going to create the story, the big WrestleMania story, you know, between him and The Rock and the rubber match and whatever, all revolving around the WWE Championship, this is the time. Because with Ryback as like a third wheel, so to speak, I could very easily see an ending being where, like, he hits a clothesline on Punk, maybe he's going for shell shock, Cena picks them both up, nails an attitude adjustment, and he gets the pin. You know, they could do it in a way that, you know,
I don't
Punk...
see that. I don't see anything like that happening. I mean, Ryback's strong, but he's not picking up John Cena and CM Punk at the same time.
No, I said John Cena picking up Ryback and Punk. and Cena in the pin. No, I was saying if
I,
Cena's gonna
you know
win,
what though, dude,
because I mean
still, I mean, Cena probably is capable of doing that. I just don't think that they would make Ryback and Punk look dumb enough to get caught up in it.
that is true, especially Punk more so if you look at everything he's survived. But
Like,
the point I'm trying to make, in some fashion,
I could see Cena attempting to do that and Punk jumping off of his back, and then Cena hitting an attitude adjustment on Ryback, and then Punk knocking Cena out with that Muay Thai kick and covering one and
right.
getting a 2 count, and then going to the other one and getting a 2 count, and then just like this look on his face of just like, God, what do I have to do? I could see that like 15 minutes into the match. Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be epic. But regardless, I think the point I'm trying to make in a most illogical manner in what I presented, if Cena were to go over, I think it would be done in a way that wouldn't make Punk look so terribly bad. Like, we could all just remark, wow, what a reign that was. Now the sun is set. And what's Punk going to do going forward? In fact, I mentioned the mid-carders on TWitWoW that I'm really looking forward to the road to WrestleMania. As far as the main event upper crust, Punk is number one as to who I'm really keeping an eye on for their road to WrestleMania, because he's the champion right now.
Absolutely.
But he's got the kind of reign. It's kind of ironic, Ashton, because when you're champion for as long as Punk's been or as long as JBL was, you gain that kind of aura of invincibility like I touched on earlier, but at the same time though, you almost think to yourself, it can end any day now. Because how much longer can this possibly go?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's where the intrigue with CM Punk comes from. Because while I feel like, what is this guy? Invincible? Is he immortal? Like, at the same time, I'm thinking, this could end any time. Brother. This could end any given night. And if it does, what happens to Punk? And that's why
it was a beautiful ride.
It was a beautiful ride, but that just begs the question, what is his road looking like? I mean, 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and then we really undergo the road to WrestleMania. CM Punk is the guy that I think everybody should be keeping their eye on, because whether he's a champion or whether he's not. In fact, I even read, again on No DQ, and I always preface it by saying, take it with a grain of salt, there has been talk that he may be the main event this year, and that's the one big thing on his wrestling bucket list, he said, was to main event a WrestleMania. Yep. 29 could be Punk's year, potentially. And I would like it to be, because here's my thing, Ashton. Like you said, if there was ever any time to give Cena the belt back, it would be now. In my mind, if there was ever a more appropriate time for Punk to main event a WrestleMania, it would be now. I mean, look at the year this guy's had.
I mean, let me ask you this, John. What's the most iconic image that the WWE has created over the course of the last 6 months?
Of course, the last 6 months. Oh, I'm probably going to get this wrong. Trying to think. The most iconic image, it would be, to me, because I thought it was pretty cool, Ryback and Cena fighting over the belt and Punk just looking on like, what the hell am I going to do? That was
okay,
great.
And what came to my mind was Punk standing over the unconscious body of The Rock.
Yes! Oh, God, wow.
For the WWE to create that level of an image, and to promote that image as much as they did, because that's not necessarily a good thing in WWE land. The Rock is their golden boy, regardless of whether Cena's around or not. They pushed that image like it was the next big thing. They pushed that image like, holy crap, look what just happened. You need to pay attention to this. This is a big deal. That, to me, was an early sign that we're going to get Punk and The Rock facing off either before or at WrestleMania. I am telling you, man, the WWE knows in the back of their mind, we said first time ever, only time ever about Cena versus The Rock. But we never specified that they can never face each other again, just that it was the first and only time that they would ever go one-on-one with each other. Triple threat, include Punk, main event, end of story, everyone goes home happy.
And that, happy. I mean, you've got enough fuel in my happy rocket to go to the moon and back, and then back to the moon and back. I mean, 2 round trips. And here's my thing, folks. Why I say that it's got to be the time now for Punk. I'm not saying that he's still not going to be relevant. He's still not going to be a hot commodity when we get to WrestleMania 30. But a year is a long time in the wrestling business. I mean, you could be the hottest thing one day, and you could be lukewarm tomorrow. That's just the way things are.
Just ask Zack Ryder.
Just ask Zack Ryder. Now, I think CM Punk has reached a level of superstar where he will maintain a level of consistency with his admiration, like the Stone Colds, like the Rocks, where, regardless of what period it is, he's always going to have some level of respect and adulation.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before he goes back to being a face and everyone loves him.
Exactly. But see, my thing is, Ashton, like, he's never had a year this good, especially as a champion. My biggest harp for CM Punk early in his career was that he was a piss poor world champion. Like, what are you doing? This has been his run. This is his WWE legacy. And what better way to cement it than the main event at WrestleMania? I want him in the main event. I mean, it's no longer about just him having this long reign that would be immortality. I mean, how much more immortal can you get than main eventing a WrestleMania, the Super Bowl of our business?
Right.
I mean,
and you know what? That would be obviously that's the number one goal as far as Punk goes. But if it doesn't happen this year, next year is a really iconic number. 30. WrestleMania 30. 9 times out of 10 it's taking place at Madison Square Garden. That would be just as big of a deal. Even if it is Punk's first WrestleMania main event, the fact that he would be able to do it at Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania 30, that big, round, perfect, divisible by 10 number, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I mean, it would be amazing if he would get the opportunity to main event WrestleMania this year. And like I said, the triple threat is just the perfect setup for it.
So epic.
Or Undertaker, that's another one, because it could very well be Taker's last stand. But either way, if it doesn't happen this year, there is next year, which I can't necessarily say for the Undertaker. I mean, 30 could be his last year. 29 could be his last year. Everyone thought 28 would be Undertaker's last year, but now there's rumors that he's going to make an appearance at the Royal Rumble and possibly even win it. So you never know, and it really comes down to the fact that Punk is only 34 years old, maybe 35.
Right.
He's still young. If he doesn't main event this year, it's not worth riding over.
No, absolutely. I'm only speculating on it because Punk himself, again, being so cryptic like he was with Money in the Bank last year, he's made some mention of wanting to retire by 2015. And some fans said, "Oh, you're just joking," and then Punk replied, "It's not a joke if it's true." So I don't know what's going on in the mind of CM Punk. What you said about The Undertaker is exactly why I love WrestleMania season, because even if nothing comes of it, the speculation is just too delicious to not take part in. It's this year was his last stand, but wait, he's making an appearance at the Rumble, and just the Undertaker,
last year it was, guys, get ready. Wade Barrett's going to win Money in the Bank. Oh, wait, never mind. The year before that, guys, get ready. We're going to have Wade Barrett versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Wait, never mind.
You gotta love it, because
the king of getting screwed out of WrestleManias.
I know, man. Hey. He's healthy so far, knock on wood. I mean, we'll see what happens. But, I mean, that's what I love about it, Ashton, because from the outlandish to the plausible, you get so many predictions, and a lot of ours are revolving around the man himself, CM Punk. If he were to face Undertaker, I don't know if it was you who said this, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but somebody eloquently said, facing the Undertaker, that is, the WrestleMania main event. And I thought you said something along those lines, because even whatever, actually main events the WrestleMania itself, the streak seems to be, at least in recent years, the matchup. After that, everything else is just icing, really. And if Punk was to get the streak matchup, I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs, but one could argue that is the main event, even though it doesn't necessarily make the screen fade to black and we all go home. So it'll be very interesting to see what he does. I think, though, with all of our talk, Ashton, it's a pretty safe bet to say you are picking Punk to go over.
Yeah, I am, and I do want to clarify. We've been talking a lot about Punk. I went on a little bit of a diatribe about how if you want Cena to be your champion at WrestleMania, that now is as good a time as ever. I do want to kind of talk about Ryback because we were so high on him going into Hell in a Cell, and don't get me wrong, we still are. In my mind, Ryback is the third wheel, playing the role of the third wheel in this match, because he's so much more of a better fit in the World Heavyweight Championship picture right now, taking on the Big Show rather than Punk.
And see, that's my thing. I'm glad you brought up Ryback. I mean, we're talking about everybody else's WrestleMania. Let's talk about him. I think the most plausible thing people have been saying, and I've got to sign on to it, I could see this guy becoming a World Heavyweight Champion during WrestleMania season, and I'm not even kidding. I'm saying that with the straightest of faces. Because here's my thing, folks. We got to remember, Dolph Ziggler won Money in the Bank at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So if he doesn't cash it in by WrestleMania, it doesn't mean it expires.
Right.
He still has it. And the thing is, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because Dolph, I still think, is very relevant. You and I are both still just love him, and I know we're going to mark through the roof when he finally does become champion, because all of his hard work has finally paid off. But I think Dolph's kind of gotten to a point, at least right now, where he's not even a blip on the radar to me. He only is because he is Mr. Money in the Bank, and no more than that. To me, I feel like Big Show and Sheamus have kind of their feud is kind of enveloped, any significance that Dolph would have as a threat, as a contender, as any sort of deal to the World Championship. And then you got Ryback now, who I think, because he enjoys hurting people, he's not going to care where it comes from. And Big Show may be cutting a promo one night, touting about his world title reign. Now, nobody's been able to stand up to him. I mean, who knows? We'll know that he has Sheamus under his belt. Maybe he'll have Orton under his belt by that time. Maybe a returning face Mark Henry. And, the roles get switched, and he has Mark Henry under his belt. Just putting all those names for the sake of putting names. And then Ryback's music hits all of a sudden, and then, we have this epic stare down. I kind of think with Big Show's world title reign, I'm expecting something a lot like his ECW world title reign,
right,
where he just dominates everybody, but then you get Bobby Lashley, who, ended Big Show's reign. He comes out one night and he spears the Big Show, which gets the crowd roaring because, man, he put him down. That's kind of the role I would see Ryback playing, even though he's a million times better than Bobby Lashley ever was. Just saying. I could see Ryback coming out, not even saying a word, rushing to the ring. Big Show maybe tries to go for a knockout punch, and Ryback levels him with a lariat. And the crowd comes unglued. And, then he's like, finish him! And he tries going for the shell shock, but Big Show rolls out of the way. And if they would have a match at WrestleMania, I mean, Ashton, you want to talk about Hogan slamming Andre.
Yeah.
What kind of WrestleMania moment would it be with Ryback shell-shocking the Big Show?
I was just going to say they could build the whole match around the idea that Ryback can't lift Big Show. And then the match comes, Ryback attempts to lift Big Show once, and fails, and then to finish the match off, maybe a few times he fails, but then to finish the match off, he musters the strength and he gets him up and he shell shocks him and pins him. That's babyface booking 101.
I mean, you want to talk about WrestleMania moments, you want to talk about highlight reels. That would live. I mean, that would get played over and over and over. I could see that at least having a 10 to 20 year lifespan.
And I mean, especially if Ryback would do the stomp, the march. I mean,
yeah. If it wasn't even just like a pick him up and then just kind of like land on your back sort of deal, but if he actually walked around with the Big Show, oh my! I mean, because people got all like in a frenzy when Brock Lesnar F5'd the Big Show because Brock was such a freak he could legitimately lift him.
Right.
Ryback doing a shell shock though, I think beats the F5 in spades for me, especially if he does the march around like you said, because then it's like, oh my God, what is this man? And then when he comes down, the roar of that crowd would be deafening. Then they would all count with him. And you would just create such a moment. I mean, I'd get goosebumps all over. So really, to be succinct, Ashton, that's what I think Ryback's going to do at WrestleMania. I think he will become the world champion. My original thought, I had referred to your blog for what I was really comfortable with at pwbooking.blogspot.com, because you've done WrestleMania cards on there. And one of your big matchups was Dolph Ziggler versus Randy Orton, I believe, for the title. I was going with that for so long, but now we're getting to a point where I do think a more plausible matchup, at this time anyway, would be Ryback versus the Big Show. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
I could almost see Ziggler Orton being for the IC title at this point.
Yeah, really. It's funny because I could still see that being a match on the WrestleMania card, just not for the same chips that we had talked about only a few months earlier. But I'm going to hand it over to you because I'm very curious to see what you think Ryback's role at WrestleMania is going to be, and if you think there's any plausibility, any logic to what I've just laid down.
Yeah, that's one of two that I think are absolutely huge possibilities. The other one is a little bit more out there. It's something that I think Chris Jericho would agree with. I think Ryback wins the world title from Big Show within the next 2 months. Undertaker wins Rumble, and Ryback breaks the streak.
And it's funny because we say that, and now we got death threats coming in left and right. How dare you? You're not real wrestling fans. How dare you? But even Chris Jericho said, yeah, I think you should end the streak. And I think what Chris Jericho's point was, you don't necessarily have to go that avenue, but he sees the star that Ryback could be. He sees the momentum that he's gained. And Jericho said, look, a fundamental point of the wrestling industry, when you're over, I mean, that's it. When the crowd's behind you, you capitalize on it. You don't think about this. You don't think about that. Over is over. It's pretty black.
And I do want to preface. I guess I can't preface if I already said it, but I do want to kind of hedge my bets here when I say that if Ryback wins the world title and people don't care, if he doesn't get the huge pops that I would fully expect him to, if his star starts to fade before WrestleMania, then yeah, you give it to Taker and then he loses it to someone that's actually relevant. but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, bro. I would expect the reaction to him winning the world championship to be, monumental. I don't think, he would definitely be received with crickets. But on the off chance that would happen, then logically, you give Taker the championship. And of course, I could only see him holding it like a month. He would definitely drop it at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view afterwards, in my mind at least. Or hell, how awesome would it be if Dolph was the one to technically end the streak? He comes out, he levels Undertaker, and then, bam, zigzag, 1, 2, 3. I mean, that would be an iconic moment for Dolph, but I don't see WWE doing that either. Regardless, though, I do see Ryback doing something huge at WrestleMania simply because of how much stock they've put in him, very recently with being a title contender and just being an absolute behemoth, just running rampant over everybody. So, it'll be very interesting to see what he does, but I think Ryback versus Taker would be awesome, and I'm really going to be honest with everybody. It would be very hard to find a legitimate threat since, Triple H and Hell in a Cell. I think it's almost as big as you can get, but if anybody can even come close, it is Ryback. So that's definitely an avenue they could go down.
Absolutely. And last year I was saying Kane, but now he's a face, and that's not even in the cards anymore. So yeah, Ryback would pretty much have to be the guy. I mean, either Ryback or Big Show, and I don't think anyone's really interested in seeing Big Show Undertaker again.
No, I mean, I am in love with the Big Show right now, but let's not get crazy. I think, I think Ryback Undertaker would be a huge money matchup, and win, lose, or draw, I think we all win, and in regards to just seeing that, because that just seems like such an epic encounter, to say the least.
Right, and you know what, dude? You brought it up, but you kind of brushed it off nonchalantly. I think it would be amazing if The Undertaker would win the World Heavyweight Championship from Ryback at WrestleMania, and then in typical Undertaker fashion, he sold the living crap out of the entire match and just acted like he was beat down and borderline dead. Dead man, dead. But yeah, and then Ziggler came out and cashed in and won the world title off of none other than The Undertaker. Because then, yeah, Undertaker's streak lives, but technically, very technically, he gets his streak broken by Ziggler, and Ziggler walks out with the world title. So that would be huge. I mean, gigantic, but it's probably us going a little bit too far into the realm of fantasy.
And that's why I brushed it off nonchalantly, because if there was any plausibility to it, I definitely get more excited about it, because, I mean, you're talking about beating The Undertaker in his yard at WrestleMania on the one day where he seems unbeatable. And I have always said, and I will continue to say, anybody who ends the streak, you're made. You don't have to do anything else in your entire career. That's it. Because nobody can touch you, ever. And Dolph Ziggler would remind us of that fact every chance he got. Hey, folks, you remember when Chris Jericho always used to tell us that he beat The Rock and Austin on the same night for the Undisputed Championship? That is nothing. You will be begging for those promos back if a guy like Dolph Ziggler were to end the streak, because you'd never hear the end of it. But, I mean, dude, who knows? It's WrestleMania. It's the most unpredictable time of the year. Who knows what any of these guys are going to do? I'm just really excited for it.
And that's what makes it so beautiful. But we are 6 weeks away from that. Right now, we're talking about Survivor Series. And I do believe that we have said everything that we need to say. So, John, unless you have any kind of final comments you want to get in there, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Guys, this is going to be a great show. I'm really pumped to do this, most definitely because we're going to be doing live reactions. It's going to be so awesome. But, I really am expecting a great show. Matches to look out for: the 5-on-5, the World Heavyweight Championship, and the Triple Threat for me. I'm sure, Ashton, you could sign on to those matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, there you go. I mean, those are the must-see matches in my mind on this card. Everything else should be solid except for Divas, and I'm really only sticking my neck out for that match because of the story involved with the attacker. We may finally get the revelation of who it is. But, yeah, guys, I hope you check out this show with us and definitely tune in with us for the live reactions. It's going to be an epic night. I'm John. That's Ashton. See you later, guys.